I am going to go ahead and get us started. So without too much further ado, welcome to everyone to the Techstars and StartOut Ace the Application conversation. I am so excited to host you today. We at StartOut, our mission is focused on accelerating the growth of the LGBTQ community to drive its economic empowerment, building a world where every LGBTQ entrepreneur has equal access to lead, succeed, and shape the workforce of the future. In essence, we are a community organization that focuses on things like networking and mentorship and programs that help with support of all of our founders and entrepreneurs, not just in one specific geolocation, but virtually all over. Here's some of the reach that we've had over the years. We've just recently graduated one of our Growth Lab cohorts, and we are very proud to say that 56 of our graduated companies have now raised over $592 million in funding and created over 3,450 new jobs. Some of our impact continues to grow. If you are ever curious on how to reach out to collaborate with StartOut, we would love to be able to host that conversation with you. We want to say thank you, of course, to our sponsors who make these events possible. Without their support, we would not be able to continue bringing in supported leadership and quality content to our community. But it is really, really exciting for me to introduce you to today's speakers. I am joined today by Sam, Tara, and Jessica, who will be speaking to you from the perspective of their entrepreneurship journey, but also how that exists in their success with Techstars. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Sam to the stage, who will be representing Techstars today and leading our chat and conversation. While we are in conversation with our founders, we would love to have you ask any questions that you might have for the panelists in the Q&A feature. So please, you'll see the chat feature, but you'll also see two little chat bubbles that say Q&A. Drop your questions there, and we'll make sure that we leave some time at the end of today's discussion for you to be able to ask them of the panelists. So Sam, welcome. Would love to have you greet the audience.
Great. Hello. Welcome, everyone. I am Sam. I am at Techstars. So for anyone who doesn't know, Techstars is a 3-month mentorship-driven accelerator investing in early-stage founders across the globe. So we provide funding, growth, access to our network to support founders during the accelerator and for life. My role is the pipeline coordinator, and I help founders all the way through the application process, learning more about Techstars, applying, going through the interviews, and finding the right program fit. That's the thing that I'm most passionate about, is helping founders find the right accelerator for them, whether that's at one of the Techstars accelerators, at StartOut, at any different incubator or accelerator. And I am going to introduce Tara and Jess. Let's go for Tara first.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here. And my name is Tara Marshall-Hill. I am founder and CEO of Sendano, which is a health tech startup. And I was part of the second cohort of Techstars Founder Catalyst, which is a pre-accelerator for women and LGBTQ folks. In this past cohort was in DC. The next one upcoming will be in Miami. Happy to be here.
Hi, folks. I'm Jessica Bussert. I'm the founder of Wave Therapeutics. We've created the first affordable and effective smart cushioning technology to prevent and treat bed sores. We're recent graduates of the Techstars Future of Longevity program that took place in DC from November to mid-February. And I'm also happy to say that I later got to be one of the mentors myself in the Catalyst program that Tara participated in. So I'm in that Techstars ecosystem, and I guess I'm in it for life. They didn't brand me yet, but I think that's going to come next.
Just a nice little hashtag give first on you somewhere. But big congrats to both of you for completing the accelerators. And so today we're talking mainly about acing the application and the different advice that you got as you applied for the programs and different learnings that you were able to take away from it. So I'll start with saying that there are certain recommendations that we give to all interested applicants. We say that one thing that we say a lot is that we're investing in team, market, progress, and idea. So that means a lot of things. I think a lot of people hear team and are like, I don't have a 15-person team, but we often mean the founders and the people who are supporting you. But I want to ask you both, what did you think were key things that you wanted to communicate in your application?
Tara, would you like to go first?
Sure. For me, and at some point, I guess I could, eventually share my very uncommon story of how I stumbled onto the Techstars website. But for me, it really was communicating the problem and communicating how passionate I was about solving that problem and what my vision was for my startup. That for me was one of the main things that when I was completing my application that I really wanted to communicate.
So Techstars was actually the 4th accelerator program that I participated in. The first was a university-based program from Purdue University. Then later I got into Matter Healthcare out of Chicago. And later I got into Generator's G-Beta program, which is similar to Techstars' Catalyst program. And then finally I was able to get into Techstars. And I'll tell you what, if I hadn't have had that foundation to help me improve and tweak my pitch, and get the whole story down pat, I would have never gotten accepted into Techstars the first go around. Actually, I applied to G-Beta 3 times before I got into that. And so I guess one of my tips would be is take advantage of free resources that are out there to help you get your story laser focused, whether or not that's G-Beta or Catalyst or one of the other free accelerators that are out there. Utilize those resources before you go knocking on Techstars. Techstars is a very competitive program. And I think they say it's harder to get into Techstars than it is Harvard Business School. So, pay attention to that. I'm not trying to discourage you. Just do your homework first. Do the prep first.
Yeah, I love that. It's really about doing homework. And I think that's what I've seen make companies stand out. Especially one of our questions is, why are you interested in the program that you chose? So I'd love to kind of dive into, how did you choose what program you wanted to choose, especially when you've done, for Jessica and Tara, you did Founder Catalyst. How did you decide now was the time to apply to these? And what kind of research did you do to prepare? Did you look into Techstars as a whole, the portfolio companies, the people working on it? What did you think helped you?
So for me, I actually almost did not accept the offer into Techstars. I'm going to tell you, I know it's a weird story here, but we had been through a number of other programs and I wasn't sure I wanted to invest the time or the equity, especially given the fact that we were already raising at a nice valuation. And so when I finally got the nod, I took about 3 days before I accepted it. What sealed the deal for me was the quality of the mentors that they had assembled for my program, which was Future of Longevity. And also that the sponsor of the program was Pivotal Ventures. And I had been trying to knock on Pivotal's door for a couple of years. And suddenly here's this Techstars program that I've been invited to participate in, and Pivotal is sponsoring it. And I think between the quality of the mentors, the quality of the team, and the sponsor itself, that's what really made me think that accepting that offer was the right idea. Now, I want to tell you something though. At first, I really squawked because, as everybody on this call probably knows, Techstars is a 6% equity in your company. And it was an awful big ask back then. And I just really wasn't sure about it. After the program, I will tell anybody who wants to listen to me that 6% was the best money I could have spent on my company, hands down. Yeah, it was just incredible. So.
And from the kind of pre-accelerator perspective, I can speak to kind of what I did or should have done, and what I've learned from the process if I were to advise someone else. And one of the things is just to really be clear about where you are, right? Is this the natural next step? What it is, it's okay to pivot. And that's something I learned. And as a Virgo, that was a difficult lesson. But it is okay to pivot, but be very clear about where you are in your business before you kind of step into, another phase where you're bringing in other, not just other resources, but other opinions, and you're exposing yourself to a lot of other, a lot of different information, to really be clear on where you are and know what you've done thus far. So really kind of having that framework of not just, your passion and what it is you're solving, but here's what I've done so far. And the standard for that is different whether you're going into a pre-accelerator, and for Techstars pre-accelerator, it's a different criteria than some others, or whether you're going on to the accelerator level. The standard of what you've done so far will be different, but be very clear and be able to articulate that, because one of the things that's important, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, is Techstars wants to see people who are going to execute, whether it's day 2 or day 202. They want to know what you've done for the past 2 days that's moving you forward, and how that was a very intentional action that you've taken, or set of actions that you've taken to move your company forward. Because then it becomes clear that okay, I know what the next couple of steps are. And even though that may shift and change as you learn and you grow, there's at least some vision that you have about how to move forward, and knowing your why. And this is particularly true, I feel, for the accelerator portion as well. I think for pre-accelerator, I know for me, I was very green. I was very new. So I didn't know a lot, honestly, if I'm to be completely honest, about Techstars. But I knew where I was in my company. The next natural step was to get some help. And Techstars was the best help that I could have ever asked for. And so, if you're looking for the accelerator level, know your why. Know why you're doing what you're doing. Know why your startup needs to exist. Know why it has to be you or your team, but whether you're a solopreneur or whether you have a team, know why it has to be you. Know why it has to be you, your startup happening now. So know why there is a clock running, and be able to articulate that, and know why that accelerator. I'm sure Sam is going to share, there's so many different kinds of Techstars accelerators, based on location, based on industry, vertical, and so on. And mentors, when you look at the mentor lists, they're very different based on the different locations. And so be really able to connect your startup's needs and your whys, your list of whys, with that particular accelerator that you're applying to, because that thread is going to be what sells you.
Great.
Another thing to keep in mind also is, there's a lot of great ideas for smaller companies, but when you're applying, realize Techstars and the other major accelerators are looking for scalable companies. So you really, I mean, they're looking for billion-dollar opportunities. So if you've got a great idea for the next best coffee shop on the planet, it's probably not going to get accepted into one of these programs, one of these larger programs. Now, you might still find luck at, you know, the local or regional level, help with your ideas. There's a lot of programs out there to help new founders of smaller businesses, everything from the federal SCORE program to university incubators and accelerators and such. But for Techstars and YC and the other big players, they're looking for scalable companies.
Yes. Yeah, I think one thing I always say with the application is there's a question on like, what's your vision? And this really emphasizes the fact that, yeah, you're in the program for 3 months, but you're engaging with Techstars, your managing directors on your cap table forever. So you're selling them on what's that relationship going to look like 5-7 years down the line. So a lot of people start small, a lot of people figure out what that niche target audience is, but you have to understand where that market is going to grow. Yeah, so I am going to quickly address some chats in the audience about the diversity of Techstars' portfolio. About 33% of our founders in total are woman-led companies. And beyond that, it's going to be way more soon because we've got our founder catalyst that is women and queer founders. Boulder specifically is 100% gender diverse. And then our JP Morgan accelerators are focused on racial diversity. So we really are making a push. I know that especially in the past 2 years, we've really focused on that. So I came to Techstars because I was tired of being the only woman in my environment. So it's definitely a concern that I have had, and I'm glad that to be in a place where we are focusing on it.
Sam, just one more point to that. The program that I participated in, Future of Longevity, it was the oldest cohort that Techstars ever hosted. So the average age of the CEO and the cohort that I participated in was 50 years old. And we were very diverse when it came from women-led companies to minority-led companies to LGBT representation. So yeah, a very diverse group.
Yeah, I am a big fan of older founders. They bring so much experience, and I'm sure you talked about this in longevity, but your odds of success go up as you get older, with, I think, a drop-off point somewhere. But I think Harvard Business Review has some graphs on that. So I would say Techstars, one misconception is that with any accelerators, you have to be this young cis male coming out of Stanford or Harvard or MIT. Not that. I think the whole idea of Techstars is that we have accelerators in all the cities that are upcoming tech hubs, but aren't the traditional Silicon Valley place, because we want to bring capital to other ecosystems. Yeah, I would love to go back to asking you more questions. When you entered the program, what was the goal of doing those 3 months, and what did a day-to-day look like?
For Founder Catalyst, and I saw something in the chat too. I'm about to to minimize it so I can focus, but someone asked about Founder Catalyst regarding Atlanta. Atlanta was the first cohort, DC was the second cohort, and Miami coming up, I think it's in the fall, Sam, is going to be the third cohort. So I forgot who was asking that. I'm sure there's a link on the website, and I'm sure that will be shared in the chat as well. So Atlanta is for the upcoming year, and it's all women and queer founders, and women and queer founders. So I know with my group we were all, clearly all women, and there were several, Black women, queer founders, Asian women, queer founders. Like, there was just a whole melting pot, and we were just, it was such an amazing group. I was just talking with Sam earlier about the fact that we still talk, and we still talk in our chat. In terms of the day-to-day, what you could expect is really the understanding is you're working on your business. And one of the first things that we were told coming in was what you get out of it is what you put into it. And I think if you're not sure what that means, book a one-on-one with the director, or book a one-on-one with one of the Techstars reps there, and be like, okay, what does it look like to put in? What is it that I'm required to do? Particularly in, if you're coming into a pre-accelerator, very, unfamiliar with the tech startup world, but knowing that you want to make a big impact and that Techstars is the way to go. Make sure that don't be afraid to ask. You're working on your business, but you also have, and the list grows every week. I swear by the end of our cohort, there were more mentors than each week as the time went by. There's so many incredible mentors. And I have to say, I think Sam mentioned this earlier, hands down, that was one of the best things I got out of Techstars. And these aren't Techstars, employees. These are folks from all over. One of my current advisors is out of Georgia. That was one of the mentors that we worked with. She's a researcher at a business school in Georgia. And so you never know who you're going to connect with. There are people who were introduced to funding opportunities through their mentors. And so that is essentially on, you're given the opportunity to book time with your mentors throughout the program. That part is not mandated, like this is your mentor hour. That's kind of on you to reach out, take a look and see which mentors make the most sense at this stage of your business, week 1, week 2, week 3, to reach out to, and just be very clear how they can help you, because you have those 30 minutes, and these are busy people, but these are incredible resources who are doing this truly because they want to pour into underrepresented founders, at least in the case for my cohort and from what they've shared in general. And then we had weekly master classes. And for those master classes, it wasn't, someone on a whiteboard. Or first one was actually where I was introduced to Jessica, where they had founders from previous cohorts come and speak to the class and just kind of give us tips on how to really excel in the program. So the first, 1 or 2 to 3 weeks are focused on helping you really map out a plan for getting the most out of the program. But everyone's grown up. So it really is about you taking advantage and not being afraid to ask for what you need. There was a link solely for asking for help. And that was completely separate for your one-on-one times that you would book and for your mentor time. So the resources really are really the standout offering to me, that for Techstars. And wherever you're looking, even if it's beyond, please do your due diligence regarding the resources beyond money, right? Because there's a lot of money floating around the universe. We just have to zone in on that. But at the end of the day, you can. And Marcus he's from Techstars. He's a Techstars company. I've forgotten the name of his company. But one thing he said that stuck with me is you can't outwork relationships. And those relationships are built in your accelerator. And so one of the things that are up to you really are to put the time into building those relationships, because these are a collaboration of people that Techstars have brought together to pour into you. And so it's up to you to really connect with them and make the most out of that connection.
Absolutely. So likewise, my mentors were what really made the program. And for Future of Longevity, Techstars assembled 100 C-level executives, founders that had exited. I think during my engagement, we worked with 6 different founders that had gone unicorn. I mean, that was the kind of access that I had. One of the folks, was a senior VP at CVS Home Health, it would have taken me months of networking, aggressive networking, to try to get a warm intro at that level. And he was just handed to me. I got in touch with policymakers at a federal level. Yeah, the 100 mentors that they assembled were a gold mine. And remember, Techstars isn't just your cohort. Techstars is the whole of the ecosystem. So once you're in Techstars, you really are in Techstars for life. So right now, let's say I want to get a hold of a decision maker at a major home health company. I can right now put a post up on Techstars Connect saying, hey, everybody, I'm trying to get an in to so-and-so. And I'll get people responding to me from this massive ecosystem, not just my cohort, but all the cohorts and all the cohorts that went before me. And, so I've got a great team rooting for my success and actively helping me achieve it.
That's great. Yeah, we really have this huge network now since we've been running since 2006. And we've had a lot of founders, and now I think 19 unicorns are over and not 8 IPOs, somewhere around there. Yeah, so for everyone who's thinking of applying, what do you wish you had known before you had applied? Like, do you feel like there were any mistakes you made or things that you would change?
Yeah, I had one. Okay, so my team, during the application process, I didn't realize the importance of team. And I had my folks doing other things during the application process. And so at the end of the day, my MD, he said, our biggest hesitancy in offering you the role was we think single founders have a real difficult time of doing this. We're willing to take the chance on you, but single founders do have a big challenge. And I looked at him and said, oh, well, I'm sorry you thought I was a single founder. And I turned the laptop and introduced Keith to one of my co-founders. And then I told him about another one of them, and his eyes lit up and it was like, oh, great. And so I took away the one hesitancy. So, as Sam said at the beginning of this call, team. Assemble a powerhouse team, and realize that if you do get into Techstars, that 3-month engagement, you are going to be all in on that. You're going to have to slow down some of your other initiatives for your business while you focus on Techstars, but it's a good thing to do. Pare down your task list to only the things that are mission critical and utilize the rest of the time to maximize the Techstars opportunity.
Great. Yeah, Tara.
I think what I wish that I knew, I may have said it before, was it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to say, I'm not sure what my next step is. I need help talking this through. It's okay to, because for me, I think my pivot would have happened sooner and I would have had more resources dedicated to my current project versus where I was before. But I was hesitant to say, I think I need to actually shift how this is going. And a big piece of that, to be transparent, is, as Jessica said earlier, is this, just being really clear about what this is, in terms of, and the advisor I spoke to was the one that kind of like had a come to Jesus moment with me regarding this is about, just explaining what not everyone is coming from being in this tech startup world, explaining what venture backable means, explaining what venture scalable means. And is your business really, it might not be appropriate necessarily, and it doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It just means it's for a different context, and there are other resources that Jessica mentioned earlier that you can plug into for the kind of business model that you're working with. So just being clear and being willing to have those conversations and being transparent about where you are, because no one can help you if they don't know where you are. And so it's about like putting the pride aside. I'm just pretending I have a mirror in front of you right now. And, I gave that up, and it's incredible. And, Cheryl Kelland, one of the mentors or entrepreneur in residence that we had, can really speak to this in terms of how quickly things started moving for me. Once I did make that pivot, and once I, was open to saying, this isn't working over here, and this is where I need to be moving. And things it was like mind blowing how quickly the traction picked up. And so that could have happened sooner if I was willing to say, this is what I'm thinking. So definitely trust that people they care about you, they care about your success, especially if you're in the accelerator phase. I mean, both phases, frankly, because the goal of the pre-accelerator is to prepare a potential new Techstars company to go through their accelerator and be part of their portfolio. So at both levels, they are invested in your success, but they can only invest to the extent that you show them what the investment is and where you are at that given moment in time. And so just don't be afraid to be honest at every step of the way. Trust the people that you have partnered with to grow your company and to pour resources into your company, and just, and trust that they also have a broader picture of where you could go and of the market and their experience that they can also kind of share to help with your perspective and really wrestle things out. I mean, there are people, who've sat down with me, hours at a time, like, okay, each different step, kind of wrestling through, what does this look like, with this market segment? What does this look like over here? And and they're not getting paid to do it. It's really, truly a tremendous opportunity. And I would just say, don't waste it. Bring your whole self to the experience, and trust that, everyone is committed as much as you are.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like I can't emphasize enough how important authenticity is when you're applying, when you're interviewing, especially when you're in the accelerator. And as someone who's raised, I know the inclination to hide your weaknesses. You feel like you have to show them this perfect, I'm about to become a unicorn in the next year to an investor, and just convince them and sell them and trap them until the term sheet is signed. That is not how you want to go into these kind of discussions, especially with an accelerator that's going to spend 3 months working on helping you. You really want to approach it with this collaborative mindset. And as someone who's been in those like final screening committees, we talk about, we discover your weaknesses. Investors, that's your job, is to find the weaknesses. So if you talk with authenticity of, I know that this is a concern that a lot of people might have, or this is a pivot because this thing might not be working, that shows self-awareness. And that has us so much more convinced than if you're presenting something and we're like, why isn't that succeeding as much as I would expect? It shows that you are aware of that and that you are going to address that, and we can help you. So we really can see it as a collaborative thing. Like, we're not against each other in the application or the interview. We're looking for someone we can collaborate to build one of the next biggest companies. So I know it feels counterintuitive as someone who's put together pitch decks and been like, I hope they don't notice this. But in the end, they do. In the end, that is what especially when you're doing interviews and screening committee with them, they will have their concerns, so don't try to hide it. And yeah, I mean, don't go in with a doom and gloom mindset. Definitely don't do that. You still want to sell this beautiful vision of the company that you want to build, but a self-awareness of what your challenges are is going to be really important.
And being able to articulate it as such, right? There's the definitely do not be dishonest, and not at all, for sure, at any phase. But even if like you were like me, where you struggle with perfectionism, right? And you even like hold yourself to this super high standard, let yourself, this is a startup world. This is the place where you're trying to put out a solution to some of the world's, to some population, whatever your target market is, to a problem they're really struggling with. Whatever you put out there, you want it to actually solve their problem, to actually help. And so, in order for that to happen, you have to be willing to say, I'm not perfect, and this is not perfect, and I'm open to getting the help and the solutions that are necessary to move it forward and to actually be the change that I'm trying to create in the world.
A thing to keep in mind that for many of the audience in this group, this might be your first startup. It might be your second. Maybe you've done it 3 times, right? But the collective team that you're working with in the application process has seen hundreds of companies. And so if you're trying to slip something under the rug, guess what? They're going to pick up on it. It's much better to be frank about it and say, I want to draw on the collective experience of this group to help me figure out these problems. That's what they're looking for. The danger is a founder that has no problems, because that's BS, right?
It's not real.
What they want is a founder that recognizes the problems and finds effective ways to overcome those problems. And sometimes the effective way is to reach out to your core group of mentors and ask their help finding that solution.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think when we're evaluating founders, there's like 3 key things that we like to say as a catchphrase. It's like clear and concise, or maybe 4, clear, concise, confident, and coachable. And this doesn't mean you're going to bend over. It means you're going to stand up for what you know as an industry expert, but it means that you can reach out to people and understand how to take their feedback. And otherwise, why would you do an accelerator? Why don't you just go raise money? Why are you going to go to this 100 wonderful mentors and then tell them, I don't care about your knowledge? So those are some key things that we're looking for. It doesn't mean we're going to go in and change your company. It means that we're going to provide you resources, and we want to make sure that you're having use of them.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question. So let's say, what do you think everyone in this audience should know about doing an accelerator that we haven't said yet?
Well, I'll use this opportunity to share the nuggets. So I won't take credit for any of these. I reached out to my Founder Catalyst counterparts before this, when I found out that I would be participating today, and just asked them to share a few tips with the audience today. And so I'm just going to you'll see me glance over. I'm just looking at my notes. So one of them, Naza Shelley, is the CEO of Carpe Diem. And what she had to say was that networking, and Jessica mentioned this, she's like, a lot of getting into top accelerators is networking. How are you networking along the way to improve your odds? Go to office hours, sit in on panels, connect with alumni who can serve as references. And this other piece, I was like, Naza, this is gold. And I made my own notes, which is add MDs to your company updates. Ask them first. But that is so critical, especially if you didn't make that first go round. Keeping them up to date with where your company is going is so crucial, whether or not it has to do with the accelerator. Some of these MDs are angel investors in other aspects. And so you definitely want to keep, these industry folks up to date with what you're doing. And then Tina Williams Caroma, she is CEO of SciDeploy, and actually is now part of the AWS Black Founders Accelerator. And hers is basically shoot your shot. She says there are at least 2 programs that she self-selected herself out of. She, like me, suffers from perfectionism. But with the encouragement of others, she went ahead, applied, and got in. Because of those 2 decisions to actually shoot her shot, she now has $175,000 in undiluted cash to fund her business, on top of what she's gaining in her new accelerator. And then Cheryl Kelland, who was our entrepreneur in residence, now running a Web3 accelerator for women, was just dittoing Tina. She's like, shoot your shot. Shoot your shot. And that's what Founder Catalyst Washington, D.C. has to say.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Crowdsourced knowledge. I love it.
So, you know, I don't know if I could really improve on that. The thing that I was going to harp on again is network, network, network. Techstars is always involved in panels, always involved in public events. So you've got every month a dozen opportunities to engage with senior team members in Techstars. So get on those panels and make sure you ask questions on those panels. And when you ask questions, identify yourself and identify your company before you ask. So for example, you have a Q&A opportunity. Think of a good, solid question before you ask it, of course, and then get up to the mic or get up to the Zoom opportunity and say, my name is Jessica Bussard. I'm the founder of Wave Therapeutics. We do this. And then ask your question. Give your quick 30-second, 20-second elevator pitch. That way they remember you. I was at South by Southwest earlier in the year. Every panel I was in the audience for, I asked a question, and I always gave my name and gave my company name and my elevator pitch, and randomly met a lot of people. And then when you go to apply to Techstars, they all, hey, wait a minute, didn't you ask a question at that thing? Oh yeah, I did. I was really impressed by your talk, and you inspired me to want to apply for Techstars. It's golden. Doing that kind of stuff is golden. Don't be disingenuous about it, of course, but if you can do it sincerely, it's golden.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what really supports this advice of networking, shooting your shot, is that 3 to 4 applicants that get into a 10 company class are reapplicants. So that means those people dared to shoot their shot, and there's no loss to shooting your shot. We don't look at someone and be like, we rejected them, we're going to reject them again. Never happens. It's usually about getting them at the right time, getting them when they found that thing that had us concerned, getting them when their traction is just right, getting them when the product is finally developed, getting them when we know that we can help them at their best. So that's why you reapply, and that's why you're never too early to start meeting people, shoot your shot. What happens is people see you, and then they see you apply again, and they're like, man, this company has done so much since I last saw them. So that's why you engage early. That's why you apply again. And that's why there's no loss to shooting your shot. And then with regards to engaging, also follow people on Twitter. A lot of the managing directors are on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. That's a great way to see what upcoming events there are. A lot of people host Twitter spaces as well, and those are easy. It's just low commitment. You listen in and get some advice, and then you can ask them questions. And when they're reviewing the applications, they say, I've seen this company before. I've heard this founder talk. I really enjoyed hearing from them. So it just makes you a warmer application when they're looking at your application. So those are some great advice tips. I'm going to put in a link to future Techstars events. So that's where you can go and ask them questions. And I'll link my Twitter as well. But then I think we can go into Q&A. Cool.
Thank you all so much for just this wealth of knowledge you've already shared. You obviously have gotten our audience excited, and I'm going to try and get to as many of our questions as we can in our kind of final 10 minutes before we sign off. The first question that was asked, and I think this is going to be a great one for anyone who's willing to answer, is From what I've read, accelerators are looking for companies or orgs that already have a lot of traction, post-revenue, product market fit, etc. My organization is very new, pre-seed. Is it too early for us to join an accelerator program?
I would say accelerators take people at all sorts of different stages. What is most common with Techstars is a product developed, maybe early revenue, but not fully generating a lot of revenue, but ready to scale quickly. So that's why I usually say you want the product looking pretty good because you're about to get in front of a lot of customers. That said, we've taken people who are pivoting, and we've taken people who have this idea for a new product and are trying to work on it, and we just want to bet on this founder and we know they'll get it done within that time frame. We've also taken people who are making profit. So we take a big range. It really depends on what you are trying to work on and what you need mentors for.
You know, I would say that if your company is relatively new, that in my opinion, even if you did get accepted into Techstars, it might not be the greatest fit because they, again, all those mentors are focused on helping you scale and you're not really ready to scale yet. So maybe a better use of your time and resources would be to reach out to some of the preliminary groups like Catalyst, like GBeta, like a university incubator or accelerator program, and try to utilize free resources to help you answer some of the initial questions. I mentioned earlier the federal SCORE program. Don't discount that as well. So I don't know, not many people know about it. SCORE is an acronym, and I cannot tell you what the acronym is. Check out your local Chamber of Commerce, see if they have a SCORE program there. What it is basically a collection of retired executives that are volunteering their time to help new founders answer those initial questions about their business. So, use the free resources first.
And on that note, just want to be clear that Founder Catalyst is a Techstars pre-accelerator, and it is also a free resource. So it is a great way to become part of the Techstars ecosystem, get exposed to the Techstars mentors and processes, while still working in those very initial stages of your business.
Yeah,
because I was pretty new going into Founder Catalyst, and so were several others. So I would suggest looking into Founder Catalyst.
Great point, Tara. Thank you.
That is a good segue into this next question, which is there another LGBTQIA focused Founder Catalyst program coming up?
I do see the question, and Sam can tell me if I'm wrong. It does say that it is focused, the Miami one is focused on Hispanic and Latino women. However, my understanding of Founder Catalyst is it is women and queer women founders. So even though, and there is a particular focus, so even though the particular focus may be Hispanic and Latino women, primarily because of the location of that cohort, it is still open to other women as well and other queer founders. So
yeah, so definitely check it out. And we are really aiming to do more Founder Catalysts because it's a really great program. So yeah, there should be a lot of opportunity for women-focused programs and LGBTQ-focused programs. In addition, of course, all our programs have at least like more than 50% are diverse. So you won't feel lonely there.
And that's not to totally diss on anybody out there that might be a straight white tech bro. There's a place for you in this beautiful umbrella too, especially if you're allies. We love our straight white tech bro allies. They make the world go round for us.
Excellent. Thank you for answering. This next one is a little bit more technical. So I think advice that you would have generally, Sam, too, about types of applicants will come into handy here. They ask, what advice do you have for tech-enabled companies rather than pure tech or tech innovation companies?
Yeah, I would say nowadays, most of our, or a fairly good chunk are tech enabled. You'd be surprised, not all of them are pure PhD plays. So I think what's really interesting with that is how does what your moat is changes. So with those really pure tech plays where you've got someone who's a CTO who's got this patent or a PhD or coming out of NASA or a laboratory, that's a pretty clear moat, right? This person spent 7 years of their life developing something. That's great. Tech-enabled companies, we have more questions. We say, why can't another big Series C or a Series A company do this kind of initiative? What are you protecting? So it could be you as a founder are bringing really unique insight. What I always think are exciting are really interesting go-to-market strategies or targeting a audience that is overlooked by companies, not because they are not worth the look, but because they can't reach that community. So having something really cool about your go-to-market strategy. Brands are a little bit harder, but we are really like looking for how are you defining a good brand? And so there's a lot of different ways you can bring something unique and some sort of competitive advantage, but obviously it's a little bit harder to define. So find what that is and really lean into that when you're applying or talking to investors.
Yeah, don't feel like you need to have a PhD or, whatever to come in. I'll let you all know that although I've had a lot of college, I only have an ASN as a degree. And yeah, it's more about who you are than the paper you got behind you.
Absolutely.
We only have about 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to ask us one more question, which I think is a good one to end us on, specifically for those who are here. What are the different programs offered by Techstars? And is there a session live or pre-recorded which walks through each of these programs?
Yes. So we host meet and greets every month, and that's probably the best way to see a list of what's open right now and what are they about. I'll quickly list off, we've got New York Open, Seattle, Techstars Workforce Development, which is investing in future of work, Minnesota Twins, which is working with the Minnesota Twins on sports tech, and then ARM Labs in Lagos is fintech focused and based in Lagos. So that's what's open right now. And then we have a lot more opening soon. Future of Longevity is opening really soon. Boston, we've got some crypto, more fintech ones, Anywhere, music, social impact. I really love what they do with Cox Enterprises, Equitech in Baltimore. So we've got a lot open and they're kind of overlapping. So we've actually got 2 application cycles open right now. So reach out. Some of them, the names are pretty self-explanatory, but I'll also put a link to where you can find all of the open applications.
Excellent. Well, I have to say thank you all just so much for your time, your energy and effort, and sharing your experiences, sharing your tricks, but also sharing knowledge for our group here today. I just so appreciate you. Sam, Jessica, Tara, you're just brilliant. And I hope for anyone in the audience, please do continue to join us at StartOut. We try to have these educational virtual webinar events very regularly, organized by also some of the people you might see here. So we would love to welcome you back to StartOut. We would love to connect you to our community partners at Techstars. So glad to collaborate with you, Sam, and so glad to continue to support founders throughout the year. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We hope you have a wonderful evening, and we hope to see you back here again soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.